In this session, we're going to look at using radio buttons to make selections. So rather than using if then else statements to check if a radio button's been selected, we're going to look at using arrays with a for do loop to traverse through the array to find out which one's been selected and then tell us what's been selected. So in this case, we can select red or yellow, and it actually works out what color drink we have without having to use a whole lot of if then else statements. So let's get underway by designing our GUIs. So I'm just going to move into the design mode of Dreamweaver just to make life a little bit easier, but you can write this in HTML if you like. But I'm going to insert a table. It's going to have 3 rows, but it's going to have about 5 columns, and we'll merge these ones at the top. We'll call this a drink selector, and then what we're going to do, we're going to place some radio buttons in here. So we're going to insert some form elements, and they're going to be radio buttons. So the first one's going to be a rDrink. I'm just going to copy this right across and place them into the other squares. And we'll make this one here a blue drink, this one here a green one, this one can be yellow, and this one can be pink. So these are different types of drinks. So now what we want to do is go back in the code view. Now we can actually access all these radio buttons, and if we just go back into the live view, because they have all the same name and they're all the same type, they're in the same group. So we can actually select them one at a time. So as I select one, the other one turns off. But what we can actually do is use their name. So rather than having the group as radio, if we need to have several different groups of radio buttons on the screen, we need to give them a unique name. So I'm going to call this rDrink, and all of them are going to have the same name, so they belong in the same group. So now they'll have the same name, except for the very first one. Okay, now each of the radio buttons need to have their values. So rather than using red as the text outside of here, we can actually give it a value. So in this case here, we can call this one red. This value here of this radio button is actually going to be blue. This radio button value is going to be green. And then we had yellow and pink. That way we can check to see which radio button's been selected, and if it has been selected, we can actually then use the value of what's been allocated to that in our solution. So let's just save this, and we'll put this in our little website here, and we will call it drinks. Now we also need a button to activate this, so we need to insert a button as well. So we move back into design view. I might actually move some of the inner cells here and place the button in there. The button value can be select, and we need an on-click event, and this is going to call a function for us, and we're going to call fDrinks bracket and close the quotations around it. So this is going to be the name of our function. So the next thing we need to do is actually create a JavaScript file. So we go File, New, JavaScript. We know we're going to have a function called fDrinks. We need to declare this as a function. So now it's a function, and then we need to give it an operation. The very first operation I always use is alert and in drinks. Or if you wanted to, you could actually go in and then the function name itself, and that way it'll actually tell us what function we're in. So if we've got multiple buttons and multiple functions, we know which one we're actually entering. I need to save this, and I'm going to save this inside our scripts folder. and we'll call this drinks. And now that's inside our JS folder. Now what you need to do is associate that JS folder with our HTML. So between the title and the end header tag, I'm just going to drag drinks across, and this will write the source for us. So script equals source, the directory, then the name of the file, close script. That way we know they're associated. So now when I click up the top here, now I can flick between the two quite happily. So in the code view now I can flick between the two. So this is much the same as you would use an atom or brackets, etc. But it's just quicker to use Dreamweaver in the design view to actually create our layout. If we want to control the environment and how it looks, we can actually create a cascading style sheet to do that, to center everything and add colors, but we're just going to stick to worrying about the code at the moment. So now that we've got that, we need to check that our button works. So let's go into the live view and let's click on select. And you notice we've got the alert tag that comes up said in drink, so we know that we're getting there. Okay, let's work on the JavaScripting side of things. So we know this function call's working, so I'm now going to just rem that out, turn it into a comment statement. So now we can concentrate on the code. Now that we're going to code the GUI, the first thing we actually need to do is get which element's been selected. To do that I need to declare a variable, and I'm going to put in here bRadio. And I don't know which one's actually been selected at the moment, so this is something we need to get. So I'm going to go bRadio is equal to document.getElementsBy, and this time we're going to use name. So it's actually going to pick up all the elements and all the ones that have been checked. So we now can store that into this bRadio. I'll just go to pure code view at the moment. So this picks up all the objects off the page, stores that in one variable, and this has actually been treated as an array. And that's a discussion for later, but in case people are wondering what that is. So the other thing we need to also get is the var. We need to get the length of that array. So we're going to put in a variable here called nLength. And this is going to get our length. So nLength is equal to our bRadio, and what we want from the bRadio is actually the length of that. So we want the length of that. So if I alert this now, and length, we should be able to find out how long that array is. So I'm just going to save this. Well, we need to get elements by ID, so we'll just go back and run that again. So we're going to select blue, and there's 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. So all 5 elements have now been pulled into a variable. So we're going to use a for do loop to actually traverse through the array. Now we know arrays start at 0, and while x is less than or equal to the array length, and we've got to remember that is 5, but in an array we start at 0 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, which are the 5 positions. So we've got to start while x is less than basically the 4th position in the array, minus 1. So this gives us 5, minus 1, 4. We're starting at 0, so 0 is 1, 1 is 2, 2 is 3, 3 is 3, 4 is, or 3 is 4, 4 is 5. So we know that we're going to stop at the 5th element in the array. And every time we go through this loop, we want to increase x by 1. So we're going to go x plus plus. Now we could actually do x is equal to x plus 1, but in modern coding we just go x plus plus, which does the same thing. So what do we want to do in the for do loop is very important, because now what we want to do is get drink selection. So I need to declare a variable. So what we need to do now is find out which radio button is actually checked. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at each of the radio buttons. So we're going to look at the radio buttons, and we're going to use an index for this. So we're going to use radio because we've saved them all in there. We're going to look at the position in the array, which is stored as x. So the very first button we're going to look at is 0, position 0 of the radio button, and we're looking to see if that is checked. So if this is checked, So if this is true, so as it looks at each one of the radio buttons, so if I go back to the live view, so this is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. So this is in position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first one we're going to look at in position 0. If that is checked, then we're going to do something. But if it's not checked, it will then go to the next one. So if it is checked, what we then want to do is say, well, the soft drink selection, which is a variable I just put in before, what I want to do there is actually soft drink selection is going to be equal to the position in the radio button array, and what I now want is the value of this. Now you remember before we actually set the value of this radio button. So, and then I want to close the if statement. So let's just go back and just save this and go back and have a look at the code. See the value here? So we can actually save, if it is the very first one, red, we can save that, or if it's blue, we will save blue, green, yellow, pink. So we can actually save the different ones. So once we've done that, we traverse through the array to find out which one's checked. We should be able to then display this. So we should go alert, quote, you have selected, quote, plus radio button 1, soft drink selection, plus to have. Put a full stop there as well. So let's save this and go run this in a browser. So now when I select blue and click select, it goes, you've selected a blue, you've selected a blue drink to have. So let's just go correct that. So we'll just drop back in here. And go back into here and refresh. So I can go this one. You've selected a red drink to have. You've selected a yellow drink to have. So in this way, if I've got 5 drinks, it's easy. If I've got 20 drinks, it's easy. It also saves having an if then tests for every time a radio button is checked. So I hope you found this tutorial useful, and it works well with check boxes as well.